over the provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That's fine. Highly unlikely that that's going to change. And thirdly, they want to make sure that the president doesn't continue to do rescissions that are contrary to the intent of Congress. And on that issue, I'm with them. I'm with them. But the bottom line is that we need to reopen the government, and we need to separate funding the government to keep it operating from other substantive legislative issues that can and should be handled separately in the near future. Let me just also mention that my birthday was last week, and for my birthday, my wife and I ended up going to a part of Virginia that within 10 minutes, 4 great leaders from Virginia were born: Washington, Madison, Monroe, and Lee. And we tried to visit the birth sites of all of these 4 individuals. The Washington and Monroe sites were closed because they were run by the government. The Lee and Madison birth sites were open because they weren't run by the government. And we ended up staying in the location where Madison was born, in Belgrove Plantation. Beautiful place, recommended highly. We stayed in the Madison room, and great service, great cuisine, great furnishings. In fact, in our room, there was a desk that dates back to 1776. And why is Madison particularly important to me? Because he's known as the father of the Constitution. And as you know, I'm fighting for a constitutional amendment that will end up restoring fiscal sanity and sustainability in this country before we have a debt crisis. So that's the intro. Happy to go into further discussion about it. And I guess the other big thing that's going on now is what's going on in Egypt with regard to negotiations over a possible peace settlement between Israel and Hamas. And we can talk about that after we deal with these domestic issues.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've got other people that will be joining us as well, including Dr. Sharif, Rick Rosner, Sasha, and Jatovi, and everything like that. I did notice, and I think I mentioned on one of the news stories, World Edition, before bringing in our gentleman and everything along those lines, that apparently, and I was wondering your thoughts on this, nobody is satisfied with any of the parties in the shutdown, because apparently in the recent polls, people are upset at Trump, the Democrats, and the Republicans. So it seems like people are basically just through with all of the political forces. And I just wanted your take on that.
And let's stop about that for a second, okay? Look, Congress has been dysfunctional for far too long. Mm-hmm. And both political parties are responsible for that dysfunctionality. But in this current situation, I think you have to remember several things. The president doesn't have a direct role in this until they send him a bill, and then he's got to decide whether he will sign it or not, or veto it. Okay, he's already said publicly he will sign it. He's already said publicly that he is for a clean CR, even though he thinks the amount of funding in that CR is higher than it should be. And so the House has already passed a clean CR, and so the issue is the Senate. And in the Senate, as you know, it's not a simple majority vote. First, you have to clear what's called cloture. You have to get at least 60 votes before the Senate will even vote on a bill. And right now, there are 53 Republicans. There are 47 that side with the Democrats. There have been several votes already. 52 out of the 53 Republicans have voted for the clean CR, but only 3 of the Democrats have voted for a clean CR, and therefore they need 5 more votes in order to be able to bring it to the floor for a final vote. And the final vote only needs a simple majority. They already have a simple majority that support a clean CR, but because of the cloture rule and the filibuster ability in the Senate, it's stalled right now. Hopefully, it will get broken through before the 15th so that people can get paid on time, and we can get the government back operating again. To the extent that there are legitimate issues that the Democrats want to negotiate over, that's fine, but it shouldn't be at the price of continuing to keep the government shut down.
So here's what Vegas says about the odds. If you try to bet that the shutdown will end, that the shutdown ends after this week, you make almost no money. Vegas, the bookies think the shutdown won't end this week. They give it a 60% or 2/3 chance that it ends by November 1st. So there's a decent chance that this becomes the longest shutdown in history. It would have to go longer than 5 weeks. Vegas gives you 60% odds that it ends a little bit before that.
Yep.
The longest shutdown in our history was up under Trump in his first term.
Right, about
So
35 days. About
This
30.
may go again. It all depends. Honestly, it depends on if the Democrats hold their stance. And because there is no reason that they have that the Republican Party would negotiate anything on healthcare.
Well,
There's nothing that they've done. They haven't promised anything. They haven't given any inclination that they would. And even if they do promise, Trump hasn't actually helped out because he already said he would not negotiate. Mike Johnson won't bring things to the floor, won't even actually swear in a Democrat.
Well, the House isn't even in session. The House has been dismissed until
The reason I'm bringing in the House is because the Republican Party, House and Senate, fall in line with whatever Trump wants. That is the way it is. And when we're talking about there's nothing that the Republican Party has done or has promised or has even sworn by that would say that they would negotiate on the healthcare bill.
Let's provide some historical context here. Okay, to my knowledge, not voting for a clean CR a clean CR with no other substantive legislation associated with it, funding the government at the same level as the past year. To my knowledge, that's never been a problem before. Okay. I think the Democrats have some legitimate issues. The question is, how do you resolve those issues? Do you resolve it by shutting down the government, or do you resolve it by dealing with the appropriations bills which have to get passed, and otherwise? My personal view, Jacoby, is there's no way that the Republicans are going to change the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and the president would veto it if they tried to do it. Secondly, I think there is room to negotiate over the temporary tax subsidies. I think there is room to do that. And there could be a commitment to say, we will guarantee a vote on that issue by X amount of time. All right. And on the issue of the rescissions, I'm with the Democrats. I think they're right on that issue, and that needs to get resolved. But I wouldn't shut down the government over it.
So just a few things. It's not really a clean CR because the big beautiful bill has cut millions already from that healthcare industry. So the clean CR is still not funding it from levels of last year. It has to affect, or it's affected by the big beautiful bill. So saying it's a clean CR really isn't true. It actually leaves out a lot of context.
Well,
then on top of that,
let me clarify.
Real quick though,
CR means that you're funding at the same level that was agreed to by legislation the prior year. OBBA was legislation that was agreed to.
Does the
Whether
big
you like it or not, it was.
Hold on, real quick, Dave.
Yeah.
Has Trump blocked money that was appropriated to go to particular areas? The answer is yes. So we cannot ignore.
I'm with the Democrats on that.
And then on top of that, when we're talking about the big beautiful bill, which cuts funds from things that was appropriated in last year's budget, which what we're talking about. So saying it's a clean CR ignores the big beautiful bill that came in. So what I'm saying is, yes, we can talk about, it's a clean CR, but it's truly not a clean CR because we're leaving out some context.
Let's flip
the
it
big
the
thing, though, Del, real quick,
let's flip it the other way.
But I just wanted to get to this point.
Calling it not a clean CR is ignoring the fact that Congress passed, rightly or wrongly, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was passed by Congress. That is law.
It was a partisan. It's one group that passed it, the Republican Party. So we're ignoring again more context. Just saying that it passed doesn't mean that wow, everybody wanted the big beautiful bill. Nobody wanted it.
Well,
Only
the
Republican
ACA
Party
passed on a straight
wanted it.
party line
So-
vote too, Jacoby.
It was a straight party line vote, yes. But that's the thing is we're ignoring that it's a straight party line vote when we say that it's a clean bill. But one thing that I did want to get to when we talk about the healthcare piece, right now, it is October. October and November is when you re-up for your health care.
Enrollment. Yeah. You have
Yeah.
to do it.
So when we're talking about negotiations and
Yeah.
saying that this is another misled talking point, saying that, oh, well, all these don't expire till the end of the year, when people are making decisions right now and healthcare is making their decision right now. So if you get locked into something and it gets jacked up because of what takes place, because they're not going to negotiate this healthcare piece, so you're getting locked into this healthcare cost. Now you can't get out of it because you're stuck in it for a year.
Well, personally, I think a reasonable resolution would be open up the government now, okay, or within the next week. Don't let employees miss a paycheck, okay? Guarantee a vote on these subsidies by the end of this month. And I do think that the Democrats are on the right side of the issue with regard to the rescissions. I think they're on the right side of the issue there. Okay, I've said that publicly before. But I think the odds of rolling back all these changes that were made in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act are extremely long.
But
Mark, are you going to recognize?
Yeah, hold on a second, because I got to bring in some other people. Sasha first, then Rick, and then we got Steve. So, Sasha, you're first.
Okay, I would like to explain that US politics today is this zero-sum game. Democrats gain, Republicans lose. Republican gains, Democrats lose. Democrats are at the lowest point of all history of United States. They never been so low in the popular opinion. They have nothing to lose by extending the shutdown to the maximum. If it's going to be 3 months, let it be. It's going to be 6 months, even better, because U.S. Republicans, they run presidency, House, and Senate. So they are the only one who will be blamed responsible for this mammoth shutdown. Oh, yes, they will. If Democrats will play their cards right and concentrate on issue of health care and other issues where they are winning in public opinion, Republicans will cave in. There is no doubts about that. So I don't know how the Democratic senators will play it. If they play it right and say no, 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 and several more times no, they will win.
Don't bet much money on that, Sasha. Rick?
So I have a question for you, Dave, which is, isn't this the first time that the Democrats couldn't stop the big beautiful bill because they're in the minority? Isn't this the first time that Dems could gum anything up, and because they need 60 votes in the Senate?
Here's the difference, okay, and this kind of relates to what Jacoby talked about. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act was done by budget reconciliation, which is appropriations, okay?
Yep.
And so basically what happened was there was a CR for much of the year. They didn't end up basically an omnibus, as part of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. You can't filibuster budget reconciliation. And so when the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed in July, that set the appropriations level for fiscal 2025, and it could not be filibustered. This, on the other hand, can be filibustered, right? And so this is the first time, since the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that the Democrats have been in this position. They were in this position back in March, okay, but they agreed to go with a clean CR. So the big difference is three things. One, the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and what their views are on that. Okay. Secondly, we're closer to the expiration of the additional temporary tax credits, which are supposed to expire at the end of the year. And three, Trump has tried to push the envelope, in my view, too far with regard to rescissions of appropriated funds. All those March, and they are in large part the reason that we are where we are.
And I got a number 4, which is that Trump's been president for 8.5 months now, and the Democrats have increasingly been called pussies for not standing up. And so this is their, first chance to stand up and respond to the accusations that they're weak, since the accusations have become so loud.
Yeah, there's clearly a political aspect to this. There's no question about that. The progressive part of the Democratic Party wants to fight. There's no question about that. Let me just say this. I think, Sasha, I would say there's two aspects of blame here. Okay, I think in the short term the Democrats bear responsibility, but over time, depending upon how the issue on healthcare gets resolved, that could end up hurting the Republicans. So in the short term, I think the Democrats get blamed for the shutdown, but how the healthcare issue gets resolved, potentially could end up hurting the Republicans.
Hey, Steve, I saw that you had popped in and everything. So do you have any questions or thoughts around what's going on with the government shutdown and all along those lines?
Well, it's always a pleasure to see David Walker. And I really honestly, I never saw, I knew that this would happen, but I got so used to them always coming in last minute and doing something. I think the only opportunity for the Democrats is that if they could use it as a way to motivate people in the midterms, that the Republicans were willing to shut the government down. It's never good for our country. I think we're better than this. I really wish we could come together and address these differences. And let's just hope. I know Hakeem Jeffries was supposed to come to an event here in Raleigh that I was hosting with my partner at my firm, and canceled because of the shutdown. So we heard David talk about this a lot. Constitutional amendment to balance the budget, these kinds of things. I think we're at this point, right, David? I mean, you said this is an accident waiting to happen, correct?
Yeah, no, and I'm fighting. Congress should be calling a convention of states to propose a fiscal responsibility amendment based upon what we announced 2 weeks ago. I'm in discussions with a variety of parties to try to force that issue, and if the Congress doesn't do it within a reasonable period of time, I fully expect the states will sue them, and then that's an issue that ultimately will have to get resolved by the Supreme Court. But things, Washington is out of touch and it's out of control. And both parties are to blame for where we are from a financial standpoint. They both take different types of positions, but both of them are harming where we are and what our future looks like.
David, I would like to mention that this, what you mentioned, the vote required 60 out of 100, right? So it's not
Yes, sir.
a simple majority, it's
Yes, sir.
different animals, so to speak. So this is the only chance for Democrats to get anywhere at all, because all the other votes, they will lose. They will lose the Senate, they will lose every single vote except this one. So concentrate on one that you can win and forget about those that you will lose.
I understand, but understand what is being proposed right now. What is being proposed is a 7-week CR. Okay, so there will be another opportunity to leverage. Now it's less than 7 weeks. Okay, when we got started, it was proposed to be a 7-week CR to expire before Thanksgiving, and so there'll be another opportunity to leverage, and that's still what they're talking about. They're talking about a 7-week CR.
But I think, Dave, what Sasha's saying is similar to what I'm saying. They have no power, so they have no leverage besides right now. So if they pass the CR, then where's the negotiation? Where's what happens when it moves down and now the healthcare piece goes on, and then the messaging machine kicks up that, oh, well, this was all ACA, all this problems and everything else. Because again, there's no power that the Democrat Party has besides right now to force a negotiation on something that is imperative that's going to raise, it's going to raise November 1st. It's going to raise before even the 7-week period is done.
Let me restate, okay? I don't think it's in anybody's interest for the government to be shut down. The Democrats will tell you that too. All right, they're not for shutdowns. Republicans aren't for shutdowns. Okay, and I think the prudent way to do it is to open the government back with the agreement that there will be a vote on the temporary tax subsidies by the end of this month. If that doesn't happen, then in 3 weeks after that, the Democrats can do whatever they want, but at least they will end up being in a position where either the Republicans didn't keep their promise, or where the situation didn't end up resulting in a satisfactory outcome.
But I think
that's my view. I don't think anybody's interested.
This is why I love you, Dave. Because what you're saying is the respectable, old school government thing that should be there. It is the way we should work.
The way we should
the ideal way that we should work. We make a commitment, we make a promise, and then we stick to that promise and then go from there. That's not where we are, though. That's sadly not where we are, because there have been promises that were already made that were already broken. There were things that were already attacked that should never have been attacked in the past. The attacks from, again, withholding money from Democrat things, using the government to fire Democrat. That never had happened in our past, but it's happening now. And the sad part is we have to work in the reality that we are in and not the reality that we used to be in, because things have changed so drastically. And that's what Sasha, I think, is saying. And that's what I'm saying, is that promises were made in the past and they were never kept. There's no power that the Democrat Party has besides right now. And if they make a promise, how can they keep that promise? And even if you do the 7-week period, by the time the 7 weeks are up and prices have jacked up, what are we negotiating now?
Hold on a second. I think
Mark,
I was going to go to Sasha if you didn't have a response to Tove, but I was going to go to Sasha and then Rick.
Dave, I'd like to mention that there are certain things happen well beyond this shutdown. The weaponization of U.S. Army as proposed by Donald Trump, where the Democratic states will become a training ground for U.S. military. I'm sorry, this never happened in any country. Even in Russia, never was proposed that the Soviet army will practice on certain villages or certain classes or so on. That's never happened. It's just here. And that, you may say that it's a completely separate issue from the appropriation bills and from the shutdown. Could be, but I think this is more substantial. It's more important than this shutdown. And I wish that shutdown will last at least 120 days, and the more, the better. Because that's the only dent how Democrats can put into Republican armor. Nothing else. They have no power in Senate. They don't have House. They don't have judiciary. They don't have anything. They're nothing. They have nothing to lose. Go for it.
Well, just so you know, you can't use active duty military for domestic purposes because of the Posse Comitatus Act. What the president is no doubt trying to push the envelope on a number of different things. There's no question about it. Okay. Rescissions, the use of the National Guard, and that's what he's talking about, the National Guard, not active duty military. And the Supreme Court is going to have a number of cases that it's going to have to deal with, dealing with these issues, also dealing with tariffs. There's a big case with tariffs. Trump has tried to unilaterally impose tariffs on several countries where there was not a negotiation. And that's something that the Supreme Court is going to have to decide. And he's not going to win them all. I can tell you, he's not going to, like, for example, birthright citizenship. In my view, there's no way in the world you can do that through an executive order, changing birthright citizenship. At a minimum, it would take legislation, and it might even take a constitutional amendment. Rick, I think you're next.
Yeah, Jacoby mentioned that the Republicans, particularly Trump, have been lying about a bunch of stuff. And in general, like Project 2025, which is a hyper-conservative plan for dismantling the government in a zillion ways. And Trump, when he was campaigning, said he'd never heard of Project 2025. Now, 8 months in, he's enacted about half of the provisions in that plan and installed this Vought guy who helped write the plan. So, yeah, when Jacoby says Trump isn't dealing fairly, I think he's got a case. And so, yeah, the Democrats could fold on this and agree, and because the Republicans say they're going to negotiate, but the Republicans have been acting in bad faith.
Well, in fairness, Rick, both parties have said things in the past that turned out not to be true. I could give you other examples with regard to the Affordable Care Act. The things were said that were just not true. And I will tell you that the situation that we're in today, to me, makes it very, very clear that we have a healthcare system that needs major reforms. We're spending roughly 20% of our economy on healthcare. We get below average outcome. We're subsidizing people that make over 40% of the poverty level for healthcare. Even though we're running $2 trillion deficits a year. Look, I mean, we're in challenging times, and I think both parties are responsible for it. And as I said before, Trump is trying to push the envelope in a number of things. In some cases, he's going to win. In some cases, he's going to lose. But shutting down the government's not in anybody's interest.
Speaking of challenging times and everything, I was just wondering, because I think we've talked about it before on this show, the economic show and everything. What is your take on, because I was at a couple of events this weekend, on this notion of pay to play and everything like that? Because I don't know how Steve is dealing with it, but a number of candidates are getting endorsements and are being asked to pay a certain amount of money in order to get the endorsements, whether that's from PAs, which are like certain PACs and everything in our local politics, but they also exist nationally and everything like that, or whether it's other ways that people are paying to play and everything. So I just wanted to take on that.
I've got to run. But hey, David, it was great to see you, and I'll be catching up with you and got some good updates to give you,
Thank you
on my campaign. But real quickly, I want to just end with this, that I think pay to play is always a bad thing. I think the money has really ruined politics. I mean, you think about it, the U.S. Senate race, they say now with Roy Cooper in it, is going to be about $1 billion. Ridiculous that you'd have to spend that much money. Even Governor Cooper himself said he wished we could have Citizens United and stop it. So I think pay to play exists anyway because organizations come in, they raise a lot of money for candidates, and they expect something in return. They're not doing this for free. Either businesses, opportunities, contracts with government. Now, in terms of organizations paying to play to get an endorsement, I really think that's not a good thing. Now, it does happen off the record. There's the kind of an underground world of within certain communities, you take money and then you go and you get to pay the endorsement. Kind of the joke is like when you get a big award with, how much did you pay for that recognition, right? So I just don't think it's right. But the reality is it's here to stay, and we have to deal with it, man. That's politics. It's all about the money. It's no longer about the people, and groups coming in from the outside, what they call dark money, that's taken over the process, both on the left and the right.
Let me take on that, David, just really quickly, because like I said, I was shocked.
David finished, and then I'm going to go.
First, I'm against pay to play, period. Secondly, we need constitutional amendments for three things: fiscal responsibility, term limits, and campaign finance. And I'm for all three, although I want to handle them one at a time so we don't have a runaway convention. Sasha?
I have a question, Dave. Please explain. In today's age, available technology, the president can communicate, and he does, directly to the voters. So it wasn't like 100 years ago. So the voter have their representative in the House and Senate, and they say, well, Senator so and says that his constituents, they would like to have this and that. And another representatives say, well, I talked to my constituencies, they would like to have this and that and so on. Today, it's no longer required because Trump can directly communicate with all the constituents. Why then you need a House of Representatives, a Senate? Why it's useless institutions today? There, it's a power grab, it's a money grab, and nothing else. It doesn't bring anything substantial to American people.
Well, first, Sasha, let me tell you, we have something in our country that I don't think you have in your country. It's called a constitution. Okay. In addition to that, we have a republic, which is a representative democracy, not a direct democracy. So, in other words, we elect representatives who are supposed to be sensitive to the needs and wants of their constituents and represent their interests. Although I would argue we now have a republic that's not representative of nor responsive to the public. You are correct that in today's age, any politician, but in particular the president of the United States, can go directly to the people. There are many ways to communicate, and frankly, Donald Trump has done it more than anybody in history. He's got more transparency than any president in history. And let me go back to something that was said before, Project 2025 and Russ Vought. One of the biggest ironies to me is whether you like Trump or not, he is clearly transparent. He tells you what he thinks, and he generally does what he says in general, okay? But Russ Vought is the opposite. Russ Vought is one of the co-authors of Project 2025. He's the one that has been aggressive on rescissions. He's the one that has been aggressive on terminations. He's the one that has tried to cut GAO's budget dramatically. He's the one that doesn't want to provide transparency over federal appropriations and spending. And there's a huge dichotomy between the president, which is trying to be transparent, whether you like him or not, okay? And OMB, in my view. Yeah.
Can we not say that he's being transparent? He's advertising. That's like saying Coca-Cola is transparent with every ingredient that it puts in its drink, or that Pepsi is, or that Lay's potato chips puts all their ingredients and is extremely transparent on all their ingredients in their ads. No, he's just advertising. So he's a distraction on what's going on. When you just pointed out that Vought, who's in his administration, is completely doing stuff behind the scenes while Donald Trump is saying lies and saying all this other craziness, that's not him being transparent. That's him giving you one hand while the other hand is doing something that you don't even know. So it's not transparency. It's more so advertising and giving. It's basically propaganda. That's all it is. It's not transparent.
I'm not talking about what he says. Let me just clarify what I'm saying. He has had more press briefings and had more press availabilities than any president in history. Okay, I'm talking about availability. Secondly, he's had more open cabinet meetings than any other president in history.
That's not, Dave. That doesn't mean
that is
anything.
Transparency.
No, Dave. That is not transparency. Again, let me explain to you again why that is not transparency. Here, this is a watch. Look at my watch. Do you know what my right hand is doing? No, you don't. That's not me being transparent. That's me showing you something to distract you.
We just don't agree, Jacoby.
So it's not transparent.
We don't agree.
Y'all don't agree. So hold on a second.
Agree to disagree on that.
I think Dr. Sharif, who hasn't spoken, had a question.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great discussions, but I want to bring some point. Definitely, you are discussing about internal issues of USA, but as it is economics, and definitely you are discussing about government shutdowns is continuing. So USA has to look how they can make a diplomatic and economic relationship specifically with the Asia, because Asia is growing. So I have 3 points. Number one, already we discussed in the previous shows, just Japan bring the new leaders, definitely first time woman leaders. Uh, Sani Takachi on the LDP leadership race, and he actually triggered investor expectations. And definitely, Japan is a very good ally of USA. And Japan government bond yield we are observing from Asia, it's improving. Secondly, I'm just discussing about Vietnam, even though it's a very small country, but Vietnam and USA also has some strategic relationship. Vietnam posted on 8.2 to 8.3 year on growth in quarter three, outperforming expectation despite new US tariff hitting sector like footwear and textile. So this is also a positive news for Asia. On the other hand, we are observing Asian Developing Bank forecasting developing Asia's growth 4.8% in 2025, and it may easing to 4.9% in 2026, when USA actually shutdowns the continuing, and they impose tariff, then they impose immigration issues, then lot of chaos and tension. On the other hand, the external factor like Asia, I just want to focus on Asia, they are growing very fast. At least I bring in information from Vietnam, from Japan, and from Asian Development Bank. What do you think when USA doing all of the strategic decisions? They are thinking right now how they can grow their business relationship, economic relationship with emerging economy, or with their ally like Japan, like European Union, to solve the complex problem.
Well, first, one of the reasons that Vietnam is benefiting is because there are a lot of companies that are moving out of China to go to other countries, including Vietnam. If you will. Secondly, the tariff issue is still a big question mark, Dr. Sharif. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that to the extent that the tariffs were negotiated between the United States and the countries, the examples of that would be UK, EU, Japan, and I think Indonesia. Those were negotiated agreements. Those are likely to still be in place. So the ones that are up in the air are the ones for countries, including yours, including Vietnam, including, a number of other countries where they weren't negotiated and where the president unilaterally said, this is what your tariff's going to be. I think those are the ones where there's a real question. I think the United States is, as we've said before, needs to develop a strategic plan that deals with economics, diplomacy, military, and domestic issues. In my view, we can't go it alone. We need to have partners around the world. In my view, when you're looking at economic issues like trade and tariffs and things of that nature, the thing the United States needs to be most concerned about needs to be self-sufficient with regard to national security and public health issues, either domestically and or in partnership with our allies around the world. But again, that needs to be a plan and an execution strategy to make that happen. Frankly, U.S. growth is going to be lower than it should be, in large part because of demographics, and the other part is because of our huge debt burdens. We're sucking money out of the private sector in order to be able to fund huge government deficits.
I think you had a follow-up question.
Another things, I just want to bring this point because naturally the global media, they do not bring this kind of interesting things, but it's very valuable for USA and our regional base. Let's say Myanmar, definitely it's beside Bangladesh, beside Chittagong. Myanmar has, lot of tensions, and definitely Myanmar has make a strategic relationship with with China, and they are trying to become like a North Korea with their nuclear and all of the things. On the other hand, USA trying to also make a strong military engagement as well as this diplomacy, what you are discussing right now in this Myanmar, in this Bay of Bengal, and in these continent issues. Also, they are doing their military engagement with Chittagong. So, do you believe that with this kind of military engagement can solve this kind of complex problem? And definitely in South Asia, we do not want to see like a North Korea, Myanmar, this war, and all of the things will create major problems.
Myanmar used to be Burma, and it was a junta. A junta took over. All right, so it's not a democracy. Okay,
Yeah, you are
they're,
correct.
they're trying to follow the bad example of North Korea. Okay, that's not in anybody's interest, including their own interest, if you will. Look, I think the big wild card in your part of the world, Doctor, is where's India? Where's India? And India, is kind of playing both sides right now. Obviously they're in a tough neighborhood. They border China. There have been conflicts with China before over border issues. They're buying Russian energy. At the same point in time, they're the largest democracy in the world, and I think ultimately, India is going to have to decide, where they're going to lie. But as you know, in the UN, they're the head of something called the G77, which are supposed to be unaligned nations. So they're the leading unaligned nation. Brazil is one as well. South Africa is one as well.
Right.
I think Rick's had his hand up for a while.
So 10, 15 minutes ago, you mentioned a failure of messaging. And with regard to healthcare, there's been a huge failure of messaging about costs and risks, and Americans, even after so many decades, remain relatively oblivious. Like good medicine, I mean, we're spending 20% of our GDP on healthcare, which is too much. At the same time, medicine that works, which is what we have now, compared to medicine 50 years ago, which let you die. Medicine now saves millions and millions of lives, but it costs out the butt. I got COVID, and I immediately got on Paxlovid. And if I hadn't been insured, that Paxlovid would have cost $2,300 for this little pack of pills. And like effective medicine is wildly expensive, and Americans, don't realize that a lot.
Well, one of the things that's been in the news recently, Rick, as you know, was an agreement that was reached between Pfizer and the U.S. government with regard to pricing of prescription drugs. And Pfizer admitted, and it's all well known, that the United States pays a lot more for prescription drugs than it should, because we're basically funding research and development for a vast majority of the world. Okay. And so that has to be taken head on. That's the first step in a multi-step effort to try to deal with that. I've also been for, there's only 2 countries in the world that allow for advertising of prescription drugs, New Zealand and us. In my view, that should be banned. Because all that does is drive demand, uninformed demand. We need a lot of different changes in our healthcare. I'm for universal preventative wellness and catastrophic protection. I'm absolutely for that. I'm for doing a lot more for, veterans and for the poor and the disabled. But we have promised too much and subsidized too many in healthcare. And it's not just, through, direct subsidies. It's through the tax code. The largest single tax preference in the Internal Revenue Code is, the second largest is the fact that people don't pay income tax or payroll tax on employer provided and paid health care. It's hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and which desensitizes people to the real true cost of health care. Which is one of the things that I think is part of our problem.
Well, another part of the problem is emergency room roulette and hospital charge roulette. You go to the emergency room, it's $12,000. for 3 hours in the emergency room. You get a procedure done, like, and a colonoscopy, and it's another 12 grand. But that's not a real cost. The real cost is then it goes to your insurance, and then the insurance says, well, 12 grand. No, we're not going to pay that. Our standard pay rate for this is $7,500. So because of this weird system, nobody really knows how much anything costs.
Yeah,
And
well,
I get put in an MRI machine. It's this super high-tech freaking machine that probably costs $250,000 plus all the computers that construct the images. I don't really know what the true cost of all that technology is. Nobody freaking does.
yeah, well, let me repeat something I've said many times. In order for any system to be successful and sustainable, you have to have three things. You have to have properly designed incentives that encourage people to do the right thing and discourage them from doing the wrong thing. You have to have adequate transparency as to cost, quality, and relative comparativeness in order to provide reasonable assurance they will do the right thing. And you have to have appropriate accountability if people do the wrong thing, while also recognizing and rewarding people who do the right thing. In healthcare, we're 0 for 3. That's a strikeout, okay? We're also 0 for 3 in K-12 education. We're also 0 for 3 in our immigration policy.
Mm-hmm.
We're also 0 for 3 in our tax policy. So we wonder why we got a problem. We got to get back to fundamentals.
Which then what you said, that's a media problem, because TV news doesn't dissect any of this effectively.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
very true. And Gary,
I want to add some just two comments. Number one, like as David Walker, you are expert of economics. My forum is World Talent Economic Forum, and we do focus on economy and economic improvement, especially this emerging economy. If USA want to overcome in long run from this economic challenge, and they really want to continue their leadership, which is very important for the global peace and the global improvement, I believe that I have few comments on that. Number one, definitely USA has a lot of tech corporations, all of the billionaires in USA. You have very good contributions in emerging economy through your NGO and foundation. It should be continued. Number two, I believe that they have to make a real strategic relationship with emerging economy, like what I discussed about Vietnam, what I discussed about Bangladesh, what I discussed about Pakistan or India or other countries. And finally, which is very, very important in terms of economy, the next revolutions for economies, it's not AI. It's all of the talented people, all of the young people, because the emerging economy, 50 to 60% people actually, the young, those who are under 30 years old, and you see, including Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Madagascar, Indonesia, Vietnam, everywhere happening these youth revolutions. Youth come to the politics. Youth restructuring their political institution. They said, we do not want corruptions. We want new world. And definitely they want to create employment. So I request, as USA has a lot of credibility still, USA is a very good leader, and I am big fan of US Open Society. I believe these three areas: number one, technology and AI; number two, this emerging economy; and number three, this talent and the political diplomacy. These are the three components. USA, if make a strategic relationship, they can be the leader for next 50 or 100 years. Thank you.
Dr. Sharif, please don't look with admiration on US policies or economics or anything. If you want to get somebody as an example, look at Scandinavian countries. You will get much.
I understand. But you have to understand. Example, I am in Bangladesh. Bangladesh grassroots level massive improvement depend on microfinance. Who last 50 years support this microfinance? It's Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations. It's all of the large foundation from Silicon Valley. So I completely understand. I respect your view about Scandinavian country, but honestly speaking, as I work with grassroots level people, and we have our Nobel laureate. Honestly speaking, US large corporations with their foundation, it has huge impact in Bangladesh.
We're past 12 o'clock.
Yeah, we're gonna say it's time for us to wrap up and everything. The only thing I was gonna tease folks about, and I can just mention it really quickly as we wrap up and everything, is to Jatovi's part. Trump is definitely transactional, because I just saw yesterday where he released a new coin and everything that is legal tender that has got his face on it and all along those lines.
It's just a plan for a coin. I don't think they've made it yet, but yeah, it's a crazy ass coin. It's got his face on both sides. What
Right.
kind of egomaniac puts his face on both sides of heads? It's
And
Trump. Oh,
authoritarian.
and then there's another heads. It's so crazy.
It's also illegal.
Yeah, to be on a U.S. coin, to be on U.S. money, you have to be dead. But
No,
there's-
but there's a new rule that there's
He
but
could
that
put
in
his
2026 they will have
face
7 people.
On one side,
No.
other side.
It's a for legal.
On one coin.
Yeah, for legal tender, you cannot be. It has to be dead individuals.
I think
No,
there's
but-
two separate
Almost
laws
dead.
that say that.
He thinks
Yeah.
that maybe he will be dead pretty soon. So in the meantime, the design is already there.
Yeah, maybe. Jatovi, as we get ready to wrap up, I'll have to do some more research, but I think that I read that if in 2026 they're going to have several people that would be, and as part of some commemoration that they will be
Yeah.
Yeah, if
allowing
you
some
call it a
legal people
commemorate,
to
if you call
Yeah.
it, you can sidestep the law if instead of calling it a legal tender, you call it a commemorative coin.
Yeah, it's not. If it's commemorative, it's non-legal. It's not legal tender. So you can do it on a commemorative coin, but you cannot do it on legal tender.
Gotcha. Cool. On that note, we're going to get on out of here. The media show will actually be a rerun because I did not make a link for that today and everything, but we'll be back on the timeshare at 1 o'clock. And of course, we'll be back with all of these shows on next week and everything
Mark,
like
a
that.
quick question. On a timeshare, are you talking about different travel clubs that provide?
Yes, they have been talking about travel clubs. So I know
they
Irene
talk
has
about
been talking.
travel clubs.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, how can I get on that show? Yes,
I'll
okay.
talk to Irene and ask her because it's like your show. Every show host is allowed to bring whatever guest they want to bring. So I'll talk to her about it when I see her in about an hour.
Okay, maybe next week, not today. Next
All
week.
right, cool.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bye-bye.